It's weird. You get a scratch from somewhere and you don't know how you got it, and when you notice when you feel a little bit pain on your hands, and then you got a scratch. But welcome back to Underrated Movies. I'm your guy. I'm your man, Mr. Alton Henry. Today I'm gonna talk to you about another film that I had a little beef with when it first came out, and when I watched it, I thought it was very good. I thought it would have made more money. Um, but I think what it had to do is that after some sort of traumatic event happened, when it comes to something that's global, there has to be a movie right after that. And I don't like that. That's a propaganda piece that I just don't really appreciate. It suckers people to go watch certain things to promote propaganda. But all in all, thought this was a wonderful film. Very different in a way when it comes to structure. And the movie I'm talking about is Catherine Bigelow's Zero Dark 30, starring Jessica Chastain, Jason Clarke, Frank Grillo has an appearance, and Joel Edgerton and Chris Pratt and Mark Strong and Jennifer Ely and so many others. Where it's a story basically about a woman, a CIA analyst, who's on a obsession like hunt for Osama bin Laden back during from years I think from 2010 to like 2012. Um, or it chronicles the decade long hunt, but I got to be honest, it doesn't feel like a decade, but it jumps from certain points, years during the pursuit, and sometimes the narrative feels a little bit disjointed because when the movie starts, actually like how it starts, you hear radio communication during the of the September 11th attacks, and then the movie jumps like 3 or 4 years later of Jessica Chastain with Jason Clarke and a few other guys that are torturing somebody for information about any potential threats that could be a harm of American operations, and they torture them. That lasts for like 10 minutes. It's like wow, they waterboard them and the other torture mechanisms, and it gets really intense. It gets really intense to where I guess you could feel a little bit disgusted by some of the torture we have to do to get information, but maybe it's a necessary torture. And it's one of those things when you're watching a film, you don't like what you're seeing, but you feel it is necessary to accomplish for a greater cause, and that's something that I really admire about the film. This is an action thriller, but it's more dialogue driven and procedural. So the action in here does little to really anything um, to the story except when they raid the Osama bin Laden compound towards the end, which is an awesome sequence. That thing will last like a good 20 minutes. And it's so suspenseful. It's like you're playing laser tag when you're kind of going around and then you just pew, 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 pew. And it's very suspenseful. Like it's very suspenseful. That has to be one of the best shootout scenes, and it doesn't involve a lot of shootout, but it's done in a very stealthy and like very expertise when it comes to filmmaking. You feel as if you're there and you're watching the sequence. And you're trying to not make any noise because it's so quiet and so suspenseful. It also reminds me of Splinter Cell. Like, there's a lot of good sequences here that I thought was just like top notch when it comes to action. Now, the action comes and goes, except that compound scene towards the end. It's like very little action. Like, you don't really see like the first action sequence until like until like maybe 30 minutes in, and it's so small and just short that it's not necessarily the focus of the film. It's more along the lines of following the character Maya, played by Jessica Chastain, which I think this is her best role, to really observe and witness her for years trying to find clues that would help lead to Osama bin Laden's assassination. She spent years trying to convince people through her intel, through her, you know, through her efforts, and it's like, well, she's been right all this, and you see that basically for the duration of the 2.5 hours that this movie is, and she really doesn't have much of a relevance in the third act in the film where they uh, uh, assault the freaking compound. But it's basically that's kind of most of the movies. Really, it's really just her convincing people, her her intel, her beliefs, what she's investigating using other agents, other facilities, other central intelligence um, uh, leads that could lead to the whereabouts of Osama bin Laden. Um, Honestly, I thought it was kind of a cheap way that when they showed him, they didn't really show his face, but it's whatever. It's whatever on that. So it's mostly about her just proving that she's right. Um, and then it actually is kind of unique having all these cameos from other celebrities, small time actors who weren't so heavily established at that time. Joel Edgerton's in it, though he doesn't really appear towards the third act as one of the soldiers on the assault of the Osama bin Laden compound. Edgar Ramirez, who was also good in here, it's kind of like in the midway of the film. Mark Strong comes in and out a little bit, plays I think Maya's boss, or just I think or I think his boss, Jason Clark, who kind of has a prominent role in the film. He starts to his role kind of gets reduced kind of towards the as the movie plays out. Like he's in there in the beginning a lot. For like the first hour, he's in there a lot. But then as the film kind of moves along, he gets less relevant, less relevant. I'm assuming his in his role, he kind of moves up the ranks. And then Chris Pratt is also in there, Starlord. Again, he doesn't appear to the end. Same with Joe Edgerton. Um, so it's mostly Maya Jessica Chastain's movie of really trying to pursue this lead. This is a spy, kind of like espionage, war, action, thriller, where it has a mixture. And I really like the narrative structure to this, where it tells you certain compounds or human error, or it's kind of like built into chapters. And it actually felt like you were watching some like a movie that was kind of had like a chapter one, chapter two, and then the next scene. That's how I kind of saw the film when it was being the way it was edited and shown. It was a fascinating film. Again, not action heavy, and it actually felt very old school to those old political action thrillers in the mid '90s, like with Harrison Ford with Clear and Present Danger. It felt like that. It felt a lot like that, just more rated R and Executive Decision, and like Under Siege, and movies that you don't normally see like that anymore. But this is more on a realistic, gritty vibe to it. This is like some good direction from Catherine Bigelow, which this with the Hurt Locker, she's probably one of the rare directors I think could deliver action sequences in a very intense setting, but makes them very realistic. Along with the Hurt Locker, um, she really knows how to put characters in intense situations, and it really pays out. I would like to see more of her work, even though she's been working in the industry for quite a while. Um, she'll probably be a good candidate to directing Sicario 3 if that ever comes out. But Zero Dark 30, comment below, let me know what you thought about it. thought this film was overhyped or underrated. I personally believe it got underrated over um, since it's been over a decade. I think people slowly try to make that film disappear of its relevance, and I get it, but I thought it was well directed, very very well handled. Even though again, I don't like the fact that they've made a film right after the events of you know of that time. But comment below, let me know what you thought about it, and let me know what is your favorite underrated movie.